DJ Svihlik exits the Miami Marlins, hot on the heels of Kim Ang also exiting the Miami Marlins. Kim wanted DJ to stay. Bruce, in the end, sends DJ Svihlik packing. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast. I'm your host, of course, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Miami Marlins _UK. Happy Friday, guys. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. This is your team every day, of course, and there is a YouTube channel as well, so make sure you head on over there and hit subscribe on the YouTube. If you are watching, you will see no guest, Friday solo. It's just after 9 p.m. here, UK time. So, yeah, I'd describe that as probably wine time. So, gonna hit the pod. A lot to get into. This situation just continues to evolve. It continues. There's so much going on here. I mean, there's actually baseball being played. You know, there's two tightly contested series going on in the postseason. No one's talking about them. Everyone's talking about the Marlins. Kim Ang, Bruce Sherman, Kim Ang. Kim Ang, is she going to go to the Red Sox? No. What about the Mets? No. Where's Kim going? What's happening with Kim? I mean, this has just been a huge topic here. This just kind of dropped smack bang in the middle of October in the NL and ALCS. Either way, guys, more news again drops today. This continues to kind of grow arms and legs to this whole story. For those that haven't been paying attention the last couple of days, Kim Ang, there was a mutual club option. Bruce Sherman looked to exercise that option. Kim Ang declined the option, thus leaving the Marlins. The backstory here was there was a conversation that they had. They had some disagreements around the direction and some of the changes that were proposed. They didn't see eye to eye on that. Thus, Kim thought it's better to move on now. So the last couple of days, we've been piecing this together. What's been going on with Kim? Why did this happen? What's Bruce Sherman doing? Is he insane? And as things are evolving here, a lot of, the interesting bit is like the feedback and the feeling. Originally, it's like, man, Bruce has really messed up here. Then it's a bit like, well, I can see it from Bruce's side. Now it's like, that Bruce Sherman guy, he could be kind of smart. I don't know. Could he? And this is culminating in the news, Barry Jackson dropping it, that DJ Svihlik will be leaving the Marlins. Svihlik's been with the Marlins for some years now, and has been and was the director of amateur scouting. Effectively, he's responsible for those draft boards and a lot of the picks the Marlins are making in the draft. So another interesting wrinkle here is that by all accounts, Kim Ang wanted to keep DJ Svihlik. This is one of the areas of contention that they had and disagreement. Kim was pro DJ Svihlik. It's fair to say, it's sometimes it's going to be hard to judge DJ Svihlik in some ways because the Marlins have been really active in the trade market for the last, year or two. Really, the last 2 years in particular, like as they've started to try to get this roster competitive. Culminates in them making the postseason in 23. But to get that roster competitive, there's been some collateral damage. And the collateral damage has basically been the top end of DJ Svihlik's drafts, pretty much. So those guys they've taken over the past few years, many of them are now on different organizations and have been, someone tweeted at me. I put out there a clip from a episode or two ago. The Everydayers will remember this, but I was talking about whether the Jacob Berry decision was like the first red flag or one of the first red flags for Bruce Sherman when he's looking at what's going on here with Kim Ang and DJ Svihlik. Like, are these guys making the right calls? And I put that clip out there. Someone replied to me on Twitter. Let me just see who it was. The handle is at HLF and 2 underscores. Not actually sure who that is. Text me and let me know who you are, by the way. I'm not certain who that is. But what they did say was, here's the first round picks of DJ Svihlik from 2018 onwards. Oh boy, this is interesting. So 2018, you have Connor Scott, no longer with the organization. That was a terrible pick, and it looked terrible pretty quickly. Like, he just didn't progress at all. Traded away. Did he go to the Pirates as part of that? I think it was the Pirates as part of the Jacob Stallings deal. Man, I forget. 2019, JJ Bleday. Is there a big leaguer in JJ Bleday? I think there's, an average to below average big leaguer, I guess, in Bleday, but, highly touted at the time. Marlins took Bleday. They wanted to go the college bat. They're trying to get the team competitive as quick as possible. Then they go Max Meyer in 2020. Jury's out on Max Meyer still, to be honest with you. There's a lot to be excited about with Max Meyer in some ways. However, I'm very interested. Well, obviously, he's been missing with Tommy John. The interesting bit with Max Meyer is we just haven't seen. We saw him do well at double A, triple A, blew everyone away. Got promoted up to the Marlins, ended up going down pretty quickly with TJ. So we just don't know with Max Meyer at this point. But with Max Meyer, he's always, in many people's eyes, profiled as a reliever. He's profiled as a reliever. He's undersized. He's effectively got 2 pitches. Is he Tanner Scott from the right side? Could he be? I don't know. But for a lot of people, they felt that Max Meyer was a gamble at that pick in 2020 as well. You then get Khalil Watson in 2021. A guy that was young, toolsy, let's say, slid all the way down the board. At the time, it felt like a fat dub, considering the tools. And again, with Khalil Watson, the jury remains out, but he's no longer with the organization. And so, that's how Kim Ang, I guess, felt about Khalil Watson in the need to go and get some help for this year. They'd put themselves in such a great spot. The year was stalling. Not Jacob Stallings, but it was just stalling. The year was stalling out. They had to make some moves, and they did. Khalil Watson in 2021. In reality, that was a bit of a disaster when you look at it. Like, the guy was young, dealt with, off-field issues, snipering umpires, all sorts of things. Khalil Watson, I still think there's a talented baseball in there, baseball player in there, clearly, but, just needs to mature a touch. He'll learn, and just needs a bit of guidance, effective guidance. The Marlins weren't really able to offer him that or find a way to get through to him, which is interesting. But again, another first-round pick, another one that looked, on the face of it, interesting. Upside pick there from the Marlins and DJ Svihlik, and ends up, traded away in a couple of years. Jacob Berry, as we mentioned, in 2022, spoke about that a few days ago. That Jacob Berry pick was, it's funny that Eli Sussman shared their live stream reaction, because I think that's where I got my reaction from. I didn't know anything about Jacob Berry, but, I trust Eli Sussman as much as anyone in terms of player analysis, et cetera, Like, I trust Eli a lot, and Eli was very underwhelmed by that, considering the other options that were available. And that played out to be true. If you haven't seen that clip, Eli shared it on Twitter earlier. It was very funny. The funniest part of that whole thing was Isaac Azut. His reaction. He duked everyone. He fully duked everyone. Initially, Isaac's face comes alive at the announcement of Jacob Barrels. And then it maybe suddenly dawns. He's like, hold on, that's not the guy I wanted. Next thing is he's dropping F-bombs. So I don't know what Isaac was doing in that moment, but it was very funny. So go and check that out. Eli has shared it. I think he quote tweeted it from one of my tweets earlier on and posted that clip, which is very, very funny. But, Jacob Berry, I think it's pretty clear that was not a great pick at the time. The guys, listen, they're not professional scouts, these guys, but, it's played out probably in the way they expected it to. And they then take Noble Meyer in 23. Again, very young dude. There's a lot of upside there with Noble Meyer. And actually, at the time, from a draft perspective, I think I was like, listen, I know we want the Marlins, they need to sort this positional player situation out in terms of drafting and development. It's been like like a glaring issue for years with the Marlins. But you almost like just lack the trust. You lack the trust in those guys. That's where my head was at heading into this draft. I was like, I think they're going to go pitcher because I think they have an ability to identify talent more effectively than the position player side. And there maybe kind of come around to position players kind of later down the line. But, you look at this hall of what I would describe as shame, really, in Connor Scott, J.J. Bleday, Max Meyer, Khalil Watson, Jacob Berry, and Noble Meyer, 6 years in a row. The end of this tweet was no impact bat in a 6-year draft, in 6 years of draft, Marlins scouts, with the zip mouth emoji. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, to be honest with you. It's a really underwhelming class. And really, why things have got... And listen, with Kim Ang going, like, I didn't know where Kim sat on DJ Svihlik. I didn't know where Bruce sat on DJ Svihlik. But what we're seeing now is actually Bruce has recognized that things needed to change. It's him that's calling the shots here. He's recognized things need to change. He shared that with Kim. They didn't align on that. And thus, Kim walked away. And Bruce Sherman removes what he sees as an underperforming area or person in the organization. He's underperformed in many ways. And granted, like I've already kind of prefaced this, Kim's traded away a ton of his other guys that he's drafted. And other people saw value in them as well. So we have to call that out. But, the lifeblood of the Marlins will always be to draft and develop. It always will be. I mentioned it, I think, on yesterday's episode. I probably mentioned it on the episode before that. For the Marlins to be competitive and sustainable, they have to draft and develop these guys effectively. And the position player situation has gone on way too long. Frankly, I'm surprised that Svihlik was still here for this year because this has been around, this stems back to, you just think of like Lewis Brinson and Monte Harrison, Isan Diaz, and, just countless guys that, that they were huge upside guys, huge prospect names, and just completely flamed out with the Marlins. Completely flamed. Oh, man. And you look around the minor leagues now and, man, it's not good. It is not good. Just in terms of like upside guys and talent. There's a few guys at AAA that are like probably serviceable. There's tons of them that play like, all the trade guys, right? They're all on the 40-man, but they're serviceable. But man, oh man, when I kind of sit back and look at this now, this starts to feel more and more for me personally. Like 2023 was like the mountain. To the postseason was the mountain. And maybe Bruce is thinking more along the lines of, it's time for another reboot here because farm's dead, fully dead. Roster's getting more expensive. It's full of holes. Is it competitive? Sandy's down for a year. He's going to be more expensive when he comes back. Avisel Garcia, he's going to be gone, I think. I don't know what's going to happen with Avi, but it's pretty clear that Skip Schumacher didn't want Avisel Garcia on the field towards the back end of the year. All of a sudden, off a huge high of 23, I'm just getting the sense that Bruce wants to just, listen, he can hold it up now to the fan base and go, listen, I got us there. I got us to the postseason. I spent the money. I made it happen. But I think this is something that David Samson talked about. Maybe last year, maybe the year before. I can't remember when it was. But David Samson was kind of reflecting, I think, on his time with the Marlins. And he was talking about how, you never want to be mid-pack. Mid-pack is no good. You don't want to be anywhere near the mid-pack. And, there's a strong chance here. Like, the Mets are going to come again. The Padres are going to come again. The Cardinals are going to come again. Like, there's so much talent still around those clubs and money. So the Marlins are going to get squeezed here. The roster's not as good. They've got no farm to work with. All of a sudden, you have to kind of start asking yourself, are we going to cut our losses sooner rather than later? Are we going to capitalize now and try to reboot it? Oh, man. I think the Marlins are closer to a rebuild than they are the postseason in 24. How do you feel about it, guys? Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. Because listen, I'm always glass half full. I mean, man, oh man, I'm like glass 9/10 full. But there's a lot of change happening here. There's going to be a new president of baseball ops or whatever role or job title that becomes. A new head of scouting, a new GM, a more expensive roster. No Sandy Alcantara. Man, oh man, 2024 is going to be a challenge. A challenge. Guys, this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Jase Medical. And you can empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat over 50 infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jase for Jase, jasemedical.com. All right, guys, you are here with me, Peter Pratt, on Friday, and happy Friday, guys, the 20th of October. DJ Svihlik has left the Marlins. He's been canned. End of the road for DJ Svihlik. Bruce Sherman has seen enough. And frankly, Svihlik was on borrowed time for an amount of time. Seems like Kim and DJ had a good working relationship, which is fine. But like we talked about, some of these big name picks in big spots have been straight up busts. Straight up busts. And when that is your role, and that's the lifeblood of the club, you get a few goes, you maybe get the odd miss or two, because there's no guarantees here in baseball and drafts and etc. But there's been too many duds. DJ Svihlik, he had to go. He had to go. They just have to try something different. And I remember thinking back a few years ago, just thinking, man, this DJ Svihlik is immense. I think he maybe joined Craig and Jeremy on Swings and Mishes once, if I recall correctly, listening to him speak. But everything runs its course. Everything runs its course, and I feel like it's a good time for the Marlins to make a directional change here. Kim Ang, speaking about directional changes, man, this story continues to grow, right? She decides to up and leave the Marlins. I don't think that was planned. I think this is kind of where it's gone for Kim now, where she didn't expect to be leaving the Marlins. I think she expected to be staying. But things have, shifted around a touch. She decides to leave. And the problem is you then leave a little bit maybe unexpectedly. You don't plan accordingly for that. Thus, maybe there aren't the vacancies or opportunities that exist that you would, in an ideal situation, have access to. But interesting news, because a lot of people saw the news. A lot of Marlins fans obviously thinking about, well, who's available? Maybe the Marlins, they're kind of a bit like the Rays, right? So, what do the Rays do and who's been with the Rays? Well, Hein Blue has. Okay, well, he's good. He was with the Red Sox. Okay, well, he's been let go. Next thing is you look at Hein Blue and you think, it just looks like a perfect fit, like CV-wise. It looks like a perfect fit. Probably going to dig into Hein Blue in a bit more detail in the early part of next week, actually. If there's no news that drops, i.e. he doesn't sign with someone or the Marlins, then we'll probably have an episode really kind of digging into him. I'll get one of the Red Sox guys to come and give me the kind of high-level overview on Hein Blue and what strengths he has and where his blind spots are and what kind of job he did, I guess, with the Red Sox. I'm segueing into it, but, when I think of Hein Blue, I think a lot of people just think of Mookie Betts. Immediately, they'll forever think of that. But the thing is, I'm not close to the Red Sox. I don't follow them closely. I obviously know who Mookie Betts is, and he's an absolute stud. But listen, I don't know where the Red Sox were at that time. I can't remember the contract situation of Mookie Betts. I don't know the financial situation of the Red Sox. A lot of factors going into that. But, Hein Blue, from what I can see from the outside looking in, is he's been tasked with rebuilding, and was tasked with effectively rebuilding the Red Sox farm. And from what I can see, he did that pretty effectively. He's ex-Rays, there for years. Did an okay job, it seems, the Red Sox, considering the direction he was given. It's one of those. Pick your poison. I mean, you clearly, ideally want to be best of both worlds, right? Amazing MLB product and farm. Sometimes one has to give while you build the other. I think that's kind of where it was with him. And yeah, not to kind of jump ahead, I do want to dig into him. Anyway, I'm going way off on a tangent. I didn't want to talk about Hein Blue. I do want to talk about him because I do think the fit is interesting, but I'm going to do it with someone that knows what they're talking about rather than me talking with like really zero information on him and the situation. But the interesting part, though, is Kim Ang declines an interview for one of the roles that the Red Sox are hiring for, which I think caught the Red Sox fans off guard. They were kind of thinking, Kim Ang, that kind of makes sense. Let's see what we can do. Kim, by all accounts, declined to be interviewed for that one. There's talk of, well, there's a vacancy for the Mets in a GM role anyway. What about the Mets? Sounds like there's no connection there either. Sounds like Kim Ang is more likely to be taking a year away from baseball, at least. At least. Let me ask you this question. You know, Kim Ang and the Marlins hire of Kim Ang, it was seen as a real kind of trailblazing hire. Great for baseball, great for many other reasons too. Do wonder what the future holds with Kim Ang. Does she get another GM gig? I mean, in theory, she deserves one. There will be vacancies that will come up. I'm sure there'll be interviews, but who knows? Who knows how this plays out for Kim Ang, to be honest with you. My gut feel, just more generally with Kim, put this out there on Twitter earlier. Just my gut feel. I'll put it here because, listen, this is forever on the record, right? Just my gut feel is that Kim Ang ends up in a front office role with the Yankees heading into the 2025 season. That's what I think will happen with Kim. No sources, no information as normal. I can already hear and see Craig Mish typing out a tweet to say, Pete, well, now you're one in 27,278,000 and whatever it might be. My predictions never come true. So Kim, absolutely not at the Yankees. We can rule the Yankees out for Kim Ang. But I don't know. I can see a Jeter hookup in the Yankees in some sort of capacity. I can then see a Kim Ang hookup there as well. I can just kind of see that happening at some stage going on with this one. Guys, final out of the day. And then I did want to talk about, well, the next stick or twist, which is at first base. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at, and if I can get the graphics pumped, that would help, but our good friends over at Sleeper. Yes, sir, get those teal graphics up. I love those Sleeper graphics. And the MLB playoffs are here, guys. They are, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs all over the show, like Acuna, Betts, and Ohtani. Pick more or less on stats for these stars, like home runs. Couldn't read them for a second. Hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big time. And all you have to do is use this promo code, and this promo code is Locked On. Do you see what we did there with the promo code? And you'll get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Okay, guys, back with me, Peter Pratt, on Friday, the 20th of October. DJ Svihlik is gone. So is Kim. Kim's not going to the Red Sox or the Mets. Looks like Kim is taking some time away. Maybe DJ Svihlik will be too. Going to carry on this series of stick or twist. We started with catcher yesterday. A lot of people messaging saying, Pete, I agree. Fortes in, Stallings out. What's happening at first base? Stick or twist? Some of this is out of the Marlins' hands, but it isn't. Some of this is in the Marlins' control. But Yuli Gurriel, expiring deal. Will he be back? No, I don't think so. Josh Bell, he has that opt-out. We will find out his decision at some stage. Will he opt out of $16.5 million? I think no. I think he won't. I think Josh Bell is going to stick and take the $16.5 with the Marlins. The question is, do the Marlins look to extend him and phase the money, bring the spend down? Because let me ask you this, right? If right now, considering the Marlins' current payroll and et cetera, if Josh Bell was available on the market for 2 years, $30 million, 2 years, 30, How would you feel about that? And I know we did well with the Marlins at the back end of this season, but would that feel like an overpay for Josh Bell? Let me know what you think. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on it. Like, it feels like a lot of dough. It feels like a lot of money, particularly for a club like the Marlins. So I think he opts in. If he doesn't opt in, the Marlins still have the opportunity to negotiate. They have that opportunity now. They could be doing that now. I don't know who'd be doing it. Maybe Bruce Sherman would. I don't know, from his yacht. It's possible. But I think he is going to opt in. And thus will be the primary first baseman. If he opts out, and then the Marlins can't get a deal done, and he's gone, thus you then have lost Gurriel, Bell, and Cooper Loop. Obviously, it was traded away. He is a free agent, by the way. We'll talk about him in the free agent market discussions later down into the offseason. But what do the Marlins do then at first base? This gets interesting, I think. Spoke about it, I think, on yesterday's episode. Do they consider Luis Arias as the everyday first baseman? They could. And it was clear that, like, he was the next guy up. Like, he was the third first baseman, I guess, on the roster. But as I've said many times, Arias' value is as a middle infielder, and to have a profile, a corner, infielder, a more prototypical, traditional one. Whether they are available and whether they exist outside of Josh Bell and into free agency, etc., I don't know. But it was clear. Like, this is the thing. Kim, and again, whatever we thought we knew about this roster and the construction of thus, it's in the bin now because there's going to be new direction. But Kim Ang's view in this area was Garrett Cooper, whilst he had a lot of positives, a lot of talents, his profile, I would say, was not prototypical in terms of a first baseman. It wasn't. He was kind of more of a gap hitter, higher average, kind of like Freddie Freeman, but not like Freddie Freeman. But, like, not a power dude, not a Pete Alonso profile, right? And it was clear that Kim wanted to go and get a little bit more thump, a bit more game-changing thump in this lineup, rather than just a singles, doubles guy. So that's where Kim's head was at. And the problem then is if you then end up sliding Luis Arias across there into first base, then you end up with another light-hitting guy at second base. You end up with the same problem with a singles, doubles guy. Granted, he's the best singles, doubles guy there's maybe ever been in the game. Maybe. But still, you lose the power, game-changing power profile that you need. You have to balance these lineups and rosters. And you can't just have 9 guys that hit for contact and Soler DHing. You can't. I mean, maybe you can. And actually, in the early part of the season, the Marlins did, and they won a ton of games. But it was clear to see they adjusted the dial on that one. Rightly so. So me personally, I don't want to see Luis Arias anywhere near first base as a permanent fixture. It's fine as a backup. It's fine to spot guys. Injuries happen, usual stuff. I don't want to see it, though. I don't want that to be the plan. The plan has to be, we need traditional thump from first base. If it isn't Josh Bell, is it going to be an internal option? I don't think so. I think if Josh Bell leaves, then they're going to have to go and find another alternative outside of the organization. Could be trade, could be free agency. Haven't even looked at the first base candidates for free agency, but I'm sure there'll be a few around there. Are they any good? Don't know. We'll spend time thinking about it, but the Marlins want to stick with Josh Bell, in my opinion. Maybe Bruce doesn't. Maybe he's looking at going 16.5 for Josh Bell. That's a lot of money. Feels like a lot of money. But I think the Marlins want to stick with Bell. Does he want to stick with the Marlins, or does he want to twist? That's going to be the question. If he does twist, then I absolutely do not want to see the Marlins default back to, well, we can play Luis Arias there. Luis Arias can play anywhere. Anyone, actually, you know what? Actually, anyone can play first base, to be honest with you. So go and find another stick to play first base that just brings something different. Guys, that's been Locked on Marlins. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day, guys. Main news that dropped: DJ Svilik's gone. Kim went, so did Svihlik. Bruce Sherman and Kim disagreed on Svihlik. Kim wanted Svihlik to stay. Bruce did not. So Kim's gone, DJ's gone. A lot of work for Bruce Sherman to do, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from Bruce Sherman here. There's conviction here. He knows his own mind. He knows and spots the weaknesses in the Marlins at this point, and he's looking to address them. I don't think you can argue with that right now. And thus, we wait to see what happens. It's going to be a lot of work for the new president of baseball ops. That hire becomes absolutely critical. Absolutely critical, that hire. Is it a retread? Is it a kind of big name? Is it an unknown name? Up-and-coming name? There's so many ways they could potentially go. But the other interesting bit, thinking about on the field into 24 and beyond, is how close are the Marlins to a rebuild at this point, considering the farm and some of the holes on the roster and the current spend on the roster? That's the question that's in my mind. It's concerning me. Bruce Sherman can hold up a nice little flag or a banner or a towel or something to say, we made the postseason in 23. That should satisfy you for another 20 years, right? Wrong. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Have a good weekend.